Hi guys, I'm Jen. Welcome to my channel. Today's video I want to make about the sooner you can manage your emotions, the better decisions you're going to be able to make. And I might have made previous videos that are similar to this, but I think this is an important focus, is when you're emotional, your decisions are not going to be great. And this is like making things out of fear, making decisions out of fear. This is, making decisions based on other people and what they think or what they're going to think. This could be making decisions out of guilt, because you feel bad for somebody. Maybe someone's making you feel bad. Like I know when I started resting, like really resting and recovering my body after all the abuse that I had experienced, like the people that you think are going to support you, where a lot of those people were the ones that didn't like that you were resting. And some of these people were like, a lot of these people were women. And it was because they didn't think that they could either like be independent of their partners or or of men. And it was also because they didn't feel like they could rest. And it's not just women, but I've also had a lot of them are women who they're like in connections because they don't feel confident to be on their own. And I'm not confident to be on my own. I'm just like, I know what the alternative is for me right now, and I just don't see any people that I want to be connected to. And I also am not fully cooked yet. Like I want to get to a place where I'm fully cooked in the way that when I have my own finances and I have my own life and where I'm stable and confident in myself and doing the things that I want to be doing, then I'm going to be able to add a person in and not focus on like that person being an anchor in my life, because that was the danger, is like being so codependent on other people. A lot of people think like that's where it's at, is like having all these connections is the safety and security. But when you recognize who these people actually are, and when it's more of a numbers game than a quality game, that's where I find it actually more dangerous. And just because you have more numbers, I can see the damage that it has on our society. But at the same time, I feel better when I'm more alone, if that makes sense. Like, do I have moments of loneliness? Yep, I do. But I'm finding in those moments of loneliness, I'm finding more ways to feel less lonely. So I'm moving more into my joy. And it's really challenging, because like when I first started healing myself, you just expect things to happen faster, happen differently. Like your expectations of what it looks like is very different from how it actually happens. And I think that's probably the damaging effect, is some people think that you just do 1, 2, 3 and you're healed, and in reality it's a combination, a coded combination of 1, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, back to 1, 0. Like it's not just 1, 2, 3, you're done. And it's like, it's and for me it was more about learning learning tools and tips on how to become more balanced and more consistent, which involve being more disciplined. And when your emotions are involved, it's really hard to do those things, because your emotions can tell you that you deserve a reward after doing hard work. And that can be, if you're insulin resistant, having that sweet treat can actually, unbuild and unbrick your own progress. And I also had to recognize where I was being emotionally manipulated by other people, but then I also had to recognize when I stepped by myself, where I still had not just those like echoes of who those people were and those experiences following me, but also where I had to reprogram my mind, because those patterns of people originated in my home, in my household, in my family. And so moving forward, I was making a bunch of decisions based on bad advice and bad habits and bad patterns from, I would use the word bad because, it's interesting. The more I grow and heal myself, for example, like I've been doing my garden, and there's people I don't even know who have no problem giving me compliments for the work that I've done. They don't know me. There's nothing tied into it. They don't get anything from it except they walk by and they enjoy, the visual of what I'm creating, right? And it's still messy, and they still can see through the mess of what I'm creating, and it's very easy for them to compliment. And it's interesting because for my family, it was like pulling teeth just to get a compliment. And so a perfect stranger can offer you like a very light, and you can feel it. You can feel it when it comes from somebody, and it feels very light. And now I have noticed where I get compliments from other people, and it's maybe a little bit more weighted in other areas, and so I have to wait and find out about that. But for the most part, I've had a number of really positive experiences from people that are very light in nature. We have similar interests in gardening and growing our own food, and things like that. So that's really helpful. And I also recognize um, the emotional tie I had to the people of the past was because I felt like I needed them in a codependent nature in order to achieve what I wanted in life, and I felt like I couldn't do it without them. And it was one of the things was I just had so many things piled on my plate, and I was trying to do everything all at once, and I wasn't really doing anything well. And so what I had to recognize was like, I had to um, feel that overwhelm, but then I also had to address the overwhelm. And it wasn't just emotions, it was mental too. And so when I start pulling things off my plate, I would look at them like, why am I even doing this? Is it from somebody else? Is it because someone else told me to? Because this is what is expected on this path. And I started looking at like people who are successful, and then I had to look at like how do they show up, and they created consistent behaviors, and they were disciplined. And so I had to look at my life and be like, how am I not, what's stopping my consistency, and what are the distractions? And I noticed there's a lot of people in my life that were distractions, and distractions from my pain, and the way that the pain is the growing pains that I needed to endure and tolerate and experience in order to become more independent and more elevated. And it's through those experiencing of those growing pains and those frustrations, there's still emotions tied into that, but like the more you do it and you get past that point of recognizing, okay, I was scared at first, I didn't know where this was headed, I don't know what this looks like, but once you do it a number of times, you're like, okay, this is actually happening for me, I am safe, I can do this, I'm gonna do this, and this is for me. And so once you get past that point, you can see the lessons as a blessing, but like not just temporarily. Because when I first started doing this, I would be like, okay, I can feel that this is great, I can see I got the epiphany, I see why I had to experience those people, I kept doing this, so I was getting this, I was prey to the predator. And I also thought that just because I recognized the predator, that now I was no longer going to experience the predators, but in reality I learned that they're everywhere, and so this is just something I had to learn and expect. And you think that once you're living your life purpose or your passion, you think you're not going to see those predators there. And that's just not the truth. There's people there. But it is interesting because on that path there, I do feel like there's this show I was watching, and I think it's called like the 100 or something, or it's like 25 finalists or something. It's like an Asian show where it's subtitles, but like they all compete in like very athletic sort of competitive different activities, right? And there's something that I noticed in this show when I was watching it, like what they were from what I could tell, obviously watching a TV show, but like what I picked up on is the majority of these people could all have respect for each other because they had done so much work to get to that tier. Like these people were on high, like they had to do the work. Like there's no way you could not do the work. And so like you either have to hang on those bars or you don't. Like it's black and white. It's either you do it or you don't. And so there's no room for excuses. And I didn't see excuses there. I think maybe a couple times, but it's very rare as more people from the bottom and the people at the top, they were disappointed that they didn't win, but they also knew that they would come back and do it again. Like it was just like they knew they just had to improve their endurance, their strength. Like they just had to. The failure wasn't like a period end. It was like, what do I need to do better? And sometimes it can be. Sometimes there's things I'm doing in life, I'm like, do I really want to keep doing this? Like when I don't miss doing the cards. You can see them in there in my back cupboard. I have not touched them since a month ago. And there's something that I felt with the cards while I was doing the cards. It was impulsive, like I know how to do this and I can get the message out. And it felt like Amazon energy. And while I loved all the pictures on the cards, I loved the feel of when I was playing with the cards like a hobby, but it also felt, I felt something else with it, and it was confusion in the way that, like, yes, you can get a message that can create clarity, but for me, that's not how I got a lot of my experiences. It's more hands-on and stepping into a direction that I didn't know, like, all the answers. And I didn't get, I don't do fortune telling with my cards. I do what do you need to look at in your life? Because the thing is, what I recognize, like, it can take me a number of tries. And just like I learned with boundaries, like when I started with boundaries, if I would have stopped with my first sort of like lesson one of boundaries, and if I just stayed there, I would have stayed stuck. And so, like, I recognized that settling was a thing. And so I had to recognize where, you take one step and it feels like a huge leap, but in reality, a bird's eye view, you still have like, 9 other lessons to complete, like, your full idea of what boundaries are, so to speak, right? And so I had to learn that I didn't, it felt like, even though it's a big step, it felt like a big change. I felt like I just learned something huge, and like this made me elevated. But in reality, I still had so much more to learn and grow about. And so the cards weren't really, it was fun, but I got bored of it. Like, doing that on a YouTube channel all the time, like creating all those videos all the time. That's why I couldn't remain consistent with it, because it wasn't the cards I was completely compassionate about. Like, I enjoy them, but I can live without them. It was the behind the cards. It was the growth that I'm trying to help people learn about through my experiences. And like, if I can offer some sort of help to get you there sooner, and so you don't have to go through all the things that I went through, that's where I'm coming in from. I want to offer people like inspiration and help, and say you can do this too, because I used to think that I wasn't able to do it. And so I just kept pushing and keep achieving levels. And while I still have a lot of growth to still, endure and take on, like, I feel like I've learned so much, and I still have so much to learn. But if I would have stopped, like when I moved from religion to spirituality, if I would have stopped in spirituality, I think I would have missed out a lot in life. And, uh, and just ways of belief systems that were tied into these different groups that were keeping me stuck. And so that's a lot of the things I had to do with the cards too, was trying to, like, get people for that emotional pull so they could release the pain. But in the reality, like, I don't need to do that. Those were cards for my pain. And it wasn't until I did the thing and took the action and got the frustration, and then realized, like, what I wasn't getting was, it was, I had to grieve what I didn't receive as a child. And then that's why life was so hard for me now as an adult. And it's not always about the reasoning. Like, you know what, I do think my dad is highly narcissistic and very selfish. I do believe that. And I do feel like he has a very cold, he's warm when it comes to him, but he's very cold when it comes to other people, especially his family. And unless he needs something, and that's unfortunate. But like, I could still see aspects of myself within him. And so, like, you still care about people, but I don't need to be in connection with those people, because I realize those people cannot treat me the way I treat them. And so I had to in order to, like, it's not like remove the emotionality, because I had to, like I said, I had to grieve it. But it's when you get clear on what's causing you pain, then that's the logical to the emotional. So it, like, cancels each other out. And it doesn't mean I don't have emotional moments. There's still moments where I'm still grieving, family members, and for the choices that they decide to make. I still grieve that. It's still sad. It just happens less and less. And I just have to remember, like, they chose that. And what happens in life for me is, when I have moments where I have strangers that are kind, effortlessly kind, it's easy for them to, just give me a compliment and not have anything tied into it. Like, giving me, my family would, like, if I got a compliment, it's because, like, they're holding that for later. It's like, I'm gonna pay for that compliment later. It wasn't like just an interaction. It was like a everything was transactional with my family members, and even people of my past. And so and a lot of people do that, unfortunately, in life. And so I had to recognize where there's a lack of emotions. I instead of, like, being a daydreamer and, like, daydreaming of, like, Prince Charming or winning the millions or having a viral video, or someone recognizing me, because you got to think these are like in the movies, right? I had to get real in life, and I had to recognize like nothing's going to happen fast, and I'm going to have to put my work into it. And yeah, just the sooner I got into the headspace, like I may never meet a partner. I don't know that I'll ever have like close personal friends or connections. You know, I have my kids, but they have their own uh, walks in life, and I don't know what, I can't control that, you know. And so I had to get good with connecting with myself, and that involved the self love, but then also like the accepting that what I had witnessed in life and been programmed to believe may not be true. There may not be, like, even in spirituality, they're always talking about, you know, twin flames and like soulmates. And I'm like, at this point, I'm 47 and I'm accepting, like, I may never meet a person that is for me. Romantic, platonic. So it's just me. I have to get good with just being with me. And, it's isn't that weird to think like that's hard to do? That shouldn't be that hard to sit with yourself, right? But it has been a challenge to sit with myself, because I definitely feel like I had like a fear of missing out. This time that I've been in hermit mode has been forever. It feels like forever, but it has been for a very, like, compared to other people, like it's definitely been a long time. And a lot of people don't like that I'm in hermit mode. They don't like that. They don't like it. Uh, and that's because when you can be by yourself, like really be by yourself, it's not like I don't watch TV. You know, I connect here online with people, but they're still strangers. I don't know anyone personally. It's not like I reach out to anyone and talk to them in conversation outside of this channel. And that's for me. I don't connect with people quickly. That's not who I am. I'm not going to do that. I can be very friendly, but I'm not going to connect with you quickly. And I think that's been very helpful for me, because a lot of people in my past and even people in my present would have tried to really try to connect quickly emotionally and or mentally, and they use games, they use different techniques and tactics. And once you're able to see through those and recognize them for what they are, that's where I bring the clarity in. And that's when I bring in, like, that person is not for me, because if I'm not doing that, I don't need them to be doing that. And when you can see people for who they truly are, like I had to see me, and while I see them, I also see me. So there are times where I didn't put myself on a high pedestal, because in my world, that was not allowed. You're not allowed to, like, that was called being selfish and being arrogant and egotistical if you put yourself up on a pedestal, right? But there's more to that conversation. There's more to that sentence. You're meant to prioritize yourself and your children before other people. And so society doesn't teach you that. They teach you to be part of a community and one for all and all for one. And depending on the group that you're in, that can work. And a lot of times it does not, if everyone is not equally contributing to the group. And so I had to really learn a lot of spiritual misbeliefs about life. And I also had to, like I said, recognize myself for who I truly was and who I wasn't. Because a lot of people of my past were trying to make me feel smaller than I was. And because they felt small and they didn't know how to grow, the way they made themselves feel big was by making other people feel small. And so I still recognize that currently in my day. I still see that in people. It's not like that it doesn't just go away. And you want to think, well, I learned my lesson, I passed my test, and spirituality teaches that, right? You know, once you recognize this and the universe is testing you. I mean, I don't think the universe is testing me. I'm testing me because I'm putting myself out in an uncomfortable situation where I don't know what this looks like and I don't know how it's going to end, but I know it's different than what I've been doing before. And so if I am successful, then I guess I'm successful. But at the same time, like, I can fail and fall too, and I'm going to learn something from that. So I don't necessarily believe in like universal tests. I think that is an odd thing. I do think that you have to learn something to the point of where you apply it naturally, and so that it becomes part of you again. I think this is something that was always meant to be part of you. I think someone programmed it out of you at birth, and I think that you weren't taught certain things. I think things were, you have a natural survival instinct, and I think as a child, my parents programmed that out of me in order to make me more of a submissive and conforming and obedient child. And I think society and religion does that as well. And so I think if you were to just have naturally let me grow on my own and supported me, I think I would have been the person I am today. And I probably would have gotten further faster. But because I had to unlearn all this stuff and learn it like me again, that's taken some time. And that can be frustrating, you know? And I think you have to, these are all things that you have to grieve for yourself, because like what you didn't receive and now you have to achieve by yourself while trying to survive in a world that doesn't want you to win. That's definitely challenging, for sure. That's challenging. And so the more you do it, it's like a sponge getting squeezed. The more emotions you remove from it. So there are times when I would just effortlessly give because I just wanted to, you know, you have an idea of a person in your mind. I've never met them before. I can put a face, you know, to who I think that person could look like and who I want them to look like. It doesn't make that person that person. And, you know, you're like, if you know about the limerence where you put potential in a person and you don't know them, you don't even know, like you just see them and you sense some sort of comfortability with them, but like that doesn't make that person for you. It doesn't make them a soulmate. And I had to reason myself out of that limerence in the past because they never showed up. You know, it's kind of like you're placing, you know, someone on a pedestal as your Prince Charming, and hoping that they'll, it's not even like you're looking for someone to save you. You're just looking for someone to meet you halfway, and these people just, they haven't even met themselves halfway, so there's no way they can meet you halfway. And I remember it always end in disappointment, and I would be frustrated, like, why? And I'm like, oh, because this is a leap, you know, a leap of faith coming up, a trust fall in a way that like I'm having to grow myself, and these are growing pains, and I'm feeling scared, and so I tend to latch on to people at those times. And so I had to learn that patterning, and in part of that patterning and recognizing the emotion attached to it, I had to recognize that I was scared, I was uncertain, but I was also capable. And I also had to recognize the people that I was trying to like tie into, whether it be like a platonic or romantic, these people I was like hoping that would be supportive. Like they can't even support themselves. They can't even be there for themselves, and they're tied in to narcissistic connections. And so, you know, anything that you tie into, you're tied into that narcissist. So like that's not going to be beneficial for you. And so I had to recognize where I was disempowering myself and bringing myself down and holding myself back because of certain people where I wanted to take them with me, but they really did not deserve it. And then I had to think like those people that I was, you know, wanting to like give part of myself to, or even share some of my world with, like they didn't help create it, and within a second they could help dismantle it. And so I had to get very in those disappointments. I had to get angry and be like frustrated, and I would get angry with spirit at first, but then I would get angry with myself and think, why were you willing to hand over so much of yourself to someone with so little? In the way that these people don't invest in their growth, they don't invest in them, in their health, in their wealth, in their success, and they're just like resting on other people. And it's like I had no information, and yet I was so eager to like hand myself over to and abandon myself to these people, and then I had to bring myself back into my boss bitch mode and look at like who's been taking. Why would I want to bring someone into my house at this time? You know, I've done all the work. I'm responsible for the mortgage. I'm responsible for the fixing of this home. I've created the beauty within this house. I've invested in this, and like if those people can't match that, why would I consider bringing someone in, whether that be family, friends, or, you know, romantic connections? Because I remember I had a friend that we were friends for a very long time, and she kept suggesting like, you know, I had the chance when I wasn't working to, you know, sell my house, and she thought I should move out west with her, and they could buy it, like we could buy a place. And I thought that was a weird, like, so you want me to abandon my two kids when they're both sides of their families and their father have abandoned them? So you thought it was a good idea for me, their mother, to move out west and have fun with you and help take care of your two kids? Like, that's so fucking selfish. And I realized she was not a friend. She was just like the men that I had dated. And so I had to cut that connection. And so it's interesting, like, she just wanted me to up and leave everything I knew for her to hang out with her. And it's like, I realized she was not giving her kids what they needed. She was partying more than she was parenting. And I didn't want to believe it. And so I finally had to call her out on her bullshit and disconnect with her. And that's hard. You know, those are hard decisions. But I feel better now because I felt like we would sit on the phone for hours when she did call, and like, you know, she would need advice. I would give her advice, but then at the end of our conversation, she'd be like, well, what I'm doing isn't that bad anyways. I don't think it's that bad. So she just dismissed her bad behavior and how it's affecting her kids and anything I had said. And I realized she is not willing to help herself or her kids. And so me moving there, that wasn't even, I was surprised at that. I thought that was a weird thing to suggest because she knew what, well, I told her what I'd been through with my kids and their dad and the family. She knew my history with them, and to think that I should leave my kids as adults to go move out west, that was the last straw. That was a weird thing. And so yeah, you know what? It wasn't until I started like really getting disappointed in people not showing up for me and realizing like no one's driving this boat but me. Nobody's invested in me but me, and so I'm going to benefit from the work that I do. And obviously, I have my two children, but they're still growing too, so they're not going to benefit for anything that I grow. Like they benefit from motherly things, but like when I have money, I'm not just going to hand money over to my kids either. That seems like not smart. Like they need to learn how to manage their money and how to, you know, they have their own growing to do. And so it got to a point where I had to remove the emotions around what was keeping me stuck and stopping, and actually look at part of the things in managing my emotions was I was tired, and I had to give myself rest, and I would get frustrated, I would get overwhelmed, and a lot of my answers came from resting. And I just realized I was just still tired. And you think like, wow, after all this time that I've been resting, like on and off for 2 years, I would say, because I left a job in August 2024, at the end of August there. And then I got a new job in April of 2025, and I only stayed there for 6 months, and I was taking online school full-time as well while I was doing that part-time. And then I left there at the beginning of October, and since then, so I've been resting since then, recovering not just from those jobs, but from the patterns that put me in those places and tolerating the abuse in those locations and environments, right? And so yeah, the more I rest, and I think some people confuse rest with like boredom. Like while I'm resting, I'm still getting insight. I'm still getting clarity. I'm still like the brain. Like there are times when I do have to shut my mind off. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's important to rest, because like when you think you have an answer, you're gonna get more to the answer, and you realize that your first answer wasn't really the answer, or at least it wasn't in full. So I just keep, and now I'm just doing things that make me feel happy, and I'm moving more into my joy, and I didn't see that happening at first. So I'm also going to do a video about like my stages. If you guys would find that helpful, be sure to let me know if you think that would be helpful for you to see like how I process things and the stages I've been through to get to where I'm going, because I feel like I'm on the verge of like getting my brain back after the trauma, and that's huge for me. If you've been watching my channel, you see what I've experienced, you know what I've been through, you know about the memory loss, you know about the fatigue, you know about the confusion, and when you start getting the clarity and you start getting your brain back, and you like, there's so many things that I'm doing now that I haven't been able to do before, and I feel like I'm coming back into my own, but without all the bullshit that was placed on me on birth. So yeah, be sure, if that's what you're interested in, healing from your traumas, subscribe, like, comment. I'd love to see who I'm talking with here or talking to. If you have any questions that you feel like I might be able to answer, you can definitely put them in the comments. And so I think I'm going to close that one off here. I'm still getting, learning how to format this to make the videos shorter and more direct. So it'll get better. My videos are going to get better that way. I just want to get back into my recording and yeah. So slow car driving by my window. But yeah, definitely hang in there. And that's all I got. That's all I got, guys. I think I'm going to end it there. Like I said, I'm still working on revising these and structuring them a little bit better. But until then, this is what it is. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.